My wife gave me an ultimatum. Either deposit my inheritance into our joint account or prepare for divorce. I told her to pick a door and find herself a lawyer. Hello Reddit eyes plus here. The clock on the wall ticked with the weight of finality. Every sound seemed amplified in the silence of the living room, where I sat across from my wife, Rebecca. Her face was a mask of icy determination, her arms folded tightly across her chest. This wasn't the woman I married 5 years ago. At least not the woman I thought I knew. I'll make this simple, she said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. You either deposit your inheritance into our joint account or I'm filing for divorce. The words hung in the air, heavy and loaded. I leaned back in my chair, staring at her as if she'd just transformed into a stranger. You're kidding, right? I asked, trying to inject some levity into the situation, even though I could feel the tension squeezing my chest. Her expression didn't budge. I'm dead serious, Alex. We're married. What's yours is mine. That money belongs to both of us. The inheritance in question wasn't an astronomical sum, at least not to anyone who didn't grow up scraping by like I did. But to me, it was a lifeline, a nest egg left behind by my late father who had worked himself to the bone to give me opportunities he never had. It was earmarked for something meaningful. My dream of starting a small business, a coffee shop where people could feel at home. But Rebecca's tone made it clear she saw things differently. This isn't about the money, I said finally, trying to keep my voice steady. This is about trust. Why do you think you get to dictate what I do with it? Her lips curled into a thin smile, but there was no humor in it. Trust. Don't lecture me about trust. I'm your wife. I've supported you through everything. And now, when I'm asking for a little security for our future, you're balking? I stood up, the weight of her words settling over me like a suffocating blanket. Security? Rebecca, we're not destitute. We're fine. This money isn't about us. It's about something my dad worked for, something I've dreamed about, and you're threatening to end our marriage over it. Her silence was louder than any argument. I exhaled deeply, trying to stay calm. Look, if this is the hill you want to die on, I won't stop you. But I'm not giving in to ultimatums. So if divorce is what you want, choose an exit and go find your lawyer. Rebecca's eyes widened slightly, as if she hadn't expected me to call her bluff. Then her jaw tightened. Fine, she said, grabbing her purse from the couch. Don't say I didn't warn you. She stormed out, the sound of the door slamming reverberating through the apartment. The next few days were a whirlwind. Rebecca moved in with her sister, and I threw myself into work, trying to distract myself from the gnawing sense of loss. As angry as I was, I didn't relish the idea of my marriage falling apart. But something strange happened. The more I talked to friends and family, the more I started piecing together things I hadn't noticed before. Rebecca's insistence on controlling our finances, her growing dissatisfaction with my modest ambitions, and then, the clincher, a conversation with her sister, Emily. Emily had called me one evening, her voice hesitant. Alex, I need to tell you something. Rebecca, she's been talking about this for months. She thinks you're too focused on your own goals and not enough on building a future together. She thinks this inheritance is her way of balancing the scales. Balancing the scales? I asked, incredulous. She feels like you owe it to her, Emily said softly. A week later, Rebecca showed up at my door, her face carefully neutral. She walked in without waiting for an invitation and sat down at the kitchen table. Alex, she began. I've been thinking. So have I said, leaning against the counter. And I've realized something. This isn't about the money. It's about control. And I can't be in a marriage where ultimatums are how we resolve problems. Her eyes flickered with something. Anger, regret, maybe both. You're being stubborn. Maybe, I said. But at least I'm not threatening to throw away our marriage because I didn't get my way. She opened her mouth to respond, but closed it again, her shoulders slumping. For the first time, she looked vulnerable. I thought we were building something together. I just wanted to feel like we were on the same page. I sighed, sitting across from her. We can be on the same page, Rebecca. But that doesn't mean sacrificing everything I've worked for or what my dad left behind. If we can't figure out how to move forward without these power struggles, then maybe we're not meant to be. The silence that followed was heavy, but it wasn't hostile. For the first time in weeks, it felt like we were really talking. In the end, Rebecca decided not to go through with the divorce. We started counseling, trying to untangle the mess of miscommunication and resentment that had brought us to the brink. It wasn't easy, and part of me knew we might not make it. But one thing was clear. I wasn't going to compromise who I was or what I stood for. not even for the woman I loved. And that, I realized, was the most important lesson my dad had ever taught me.